The Last of Us Part 2 was officially introduced to the world on December 3rd at PSX 2016. Ah boy, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head.
And I tuned in with all the other kinda funny best friends to watch Greg, Tim and Colin react to the crown jewel of the event, the press conference, that was sure to have many exciting announcements and trailers for upcoming PlayStation titles. PlayStation was on top of the world in this moment. The PS4 was sizably ahead. Xbox was the laughingstock of cynical internet gamers everywhere. The Switch hadn't come out yet, and PlayStation's reverent first-party studios and games were starting to glide downfield at an unmatched pace. Bloodborne had come out the year before, and Uncharted 4 had sold gangbusters earlier in the year, and more was coming. This was most on show earlier in the year at their 2016 E3 press conference, which might just be my sleeper pick for the greatest E3 press conference of all time. I know people really like Nintendo 2004 and Sony 2013, and some might even prefer the Sony press conference from the year before, the 2015 one, but Sony 2016 is where it's at. The first announcement of God of War's new look, the crowd's reaction to Kratos' reveal tells the story there.
What for?
A test. She taught you to hunt, yes?
Yes, sir.
Then show me what you know. I am hungry. Feed us.
Yes, son.
What are we hunting?
You are hunting deer.
Which way?
Your hunt. You tell me.
South?
The announcement of the Crash remakes, which I mean Tim will show you what that means to the PlayStation fanbase.
Shut the fuck up! Holy shit! It's fucking happening!
Yeah, in Skylanders.
No, don't do this to me, please. There's an orchestra
They're
playing
not gonna do a Crash
music.
Bandicoot game.
Do you see his shadow?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, that's right. No t-shirt tonight, but I'm proud to announce that we work with our partners at Activision.
Not like this.
We're
God
going to bring
damn it.
back the original Crash, Crash 2, and Crash Warped, fully remastered from the ground up for PlayStation.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Are you serious right now? The Bandicoot is saved.
It will also appear first, though, on PlayStation 4 this October in Skylanders Imaginators.
Whatever.
Let's
Bonus! We get bonus, Greg!
Get down.
Oh my god. I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking right now.
The insane Hideo Kojima walkout.
And I think you'll agree that this E3 marks one of the strongest lineups of content in PlayStation history. That's a result of our commitment to partnerships with the most talented developers and storytellers in our medium. And as proof of that commitment, please join me in welcoming one of the most creative talents in the history of gaming.
Fucking conference, man. They don't fucking stop.
And the Death Stranding reveal. And the Norman Reedus in Death Stranding reveal. Crazy stuff. The Spider-Man unveiling.
People see me and think they're safer. But it's not really me they're seeing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Are we fucking kidding right now?
Probably for the best. Knowing everything hinges on a guy from Queens sounds as scary as it feels. No pressure, right?
Even games that aren't as fondly remembered like Detroit Become Human and Days Gone were all announced there, and were all announced as PlayStation first-party exclusives. The Resident Evil surprise?
Holy shit. What? Holy fuck!
Come on, dude. The Last Guardian got a fucking date. After its first appearance at E3 damn near a decade earlier, after disappearing, and then becoming a meme, it got a real fucking date. All at Sony 2016. You just had to be there. This conference laid the foundation for what was perhaps the golden era of Sony's first-party releases, and its console dominance. It was a nice and peaceful time. I can't believe I'm waxing nostalgic for 2016. That was 2 fucking years ago, I swear. Never again would so many big games come out so close together. But if everything was announced earlier in the year at E3, what was left for PSX a short 6 months later? The slumbering giant, of course. The sleeping dog. PSX 2016's press conference opens with a woman clad in jeans and a red headscarf, traversing through a war zone in the slums of India, avoiding guards and eventually beating them up. Who is it? It's fucking Chloe, of course. The dramatic reveal at the end of the trailer gets the appropriate crowd reaction.
Oh, you should relax. We'll live longer.
Uncharted 4's DLC that's turned into a full game is called Lost Legacy, and it was a Chloe game. What a time to be alive. It was a hell of a way to start a conference with gaming's then and now's greatest studio. But Uncharted 4's DLC was expected to be at the show. Everyone saw it coming. But the dog couldn't strike twice in one show, could it? The conference continued coolly. First look at the Crash remaster promised at E3. It even got a name and a kind of date. Shuhei came on stage and everybody came.
Please welcome to the stage, Shuhei Yoshida.
Oh my god, I love it.
Thank you.
You just had to be there. He talked about hardcore shit, The Last Guardian's meme release date was next week, and Parappa the Rapper showed up, and Greg Miller got very excited for Patapon and Locoroko. And then this little fucker introduced Knack 2. The knackening was real. You had to be there. You see, kids, Knack sucks. Everyone thought so, but the rumors were consistent and undying that a sequel was coming, and so it became a bit of an ironic thing. So the reveal was a big deal. It was funny. Colin clapped mildly for Ni no Kuni 2. That was cool. In fact, at the end of the trailer, he clapped again, and Greg pity clapped with him. They then all freaked out over this guy pretending the Vita wasn't dead. Fun times were had, and it looked like the conference was coming to a close with a trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn, which was coming out only a few months into the future, and seemed a ripe choice for the show closer. Sony was really pushing Horizon, hoping it would become PlayStation's next big franchise. I'm pretty sure they succeeded. Horizon 1 was fun, still gotta get around to that sequel, but no biggie. Colin was pissy about the trailer for some reason though.
What? You're starting to show too much. Yeah. It's like starting to annoy me.
But then, when we all thought it was over, Sean Layden hit us with the patented, "There's one more thing." And as he slowly introduced the one more thing, everybody's ears perked up a little. To some, it quickly became apparent what was happening. It's in super early development, he said. And Colin blurts out a spoiler, having figured it out immediately.
The team...
Dumbass. But then it happens for real. The opening of the trailer operates as 5 dramatic cuts to wider shots of a spooky, possibly post-apocalyptic, green wilderness, designed to make what's happening more obvious each successive cut. Shot 1, overgrown wilderness, and god does it look PS4-y, it's unreal. This ain't no PS3 shit no more. Shot 2, a tree with a claw mark in it, oh. Shot 3, an abandoned car. Jesus Christ, it's happening. Shot 4, an abandoned street. Colin says fuck yeah. And shot 5, the street again, with a rundown sign with a Firefly logo, and the crowd goes fucking nuts.
Yeah!
The company logo appears on the screen, and the dog's dominance is on full display. The trailer then plays out from there. The first shot we see of our characters is a girl, who looks to be Ellie, though you can't see exactly. She's got a tattoo, what's up with that? Ain't she supposed to be 14 or something? And her hand is trembling. Psst, that'll be important later on. The girl starts singing, and by the voice it's confirmed to be Ellie. The crowd chimes in again. Now this is minorly important as a reveal, because the idea of a Last of Us sequel was always quite controversial. A lot of people thought the first game ended perfectly, with the ambiguity around Ellie believing Joel's story about what happened with the Fireflies, and that should stay untouched. A lot of popular ideas popped up in the speculation about a second game then. Perhaps because the world of The Last of Us was seen as so strong, a sequel would deal with a wholly new crew of characters, as not to touch the first game's ending. This put that to rest. That's why Colin's clapping. Not a lot of people remember that, I don't think. The sequel was still about Joel and what seems to be a grown-up Ellie. And look, he taught her to play the guitar. The song Ellie is singing is 2012's Through the Valley by Sean James. It's totally frickin' sick, brother. You best believe I know every single goddamn word. After this trailer dropped, the Ashley Johnson version and the original were downloaded right from YouTube to MP3 and transferred to my phone by way of iTunes, and I listened to them all the time. For 4 years until the game actually came out. It fits perfectly with the rather mysterious, ominous trailer, and the lyrics fit the world of The Last of Us and Ellie and Joel's journey more specifically in both tone and message. There's even a verse from the song that doesn't make it into the trailer that fits even more directly, which led to so much speculation on my part in those intermediate years. The savior of the human race? That sounds like Ellie to me. My gun, they come for me. I know I'll kill my enemies when they come. Come on, brother. It gets super dramatic in the unsung verse, and basically boils down to you can't save the world from destruction and pain because you can't save the world from itself. Ominous and spiteful almost, the song is. Trusting only in yourself, fearless against the evil world. It certainly fits what seems to be implied is going to happen in the trailer, and definitely fits now with the context we have. The closing line from the song is, "Because I know when I die, my soul is damned." Wowzers. Sean would also go on to write and release The Guardian, Ellie's song, around the game's release, which is also great, and the lyrics to which can be found in Ellie's journal towards the end of the game. While Ellie sings Through the Valley, the trailer shows her battered a little bit by a violent encounter. She sings, "I'll kill my enemies as they come," as blood drips down her face like a teardrop. It's pretty rad. Then a man approaches the house, appearing out of light as if he's coming from the afterlife, and tours the carnage Ellie has perpetrated. As he turns to enter the room Ellie's in, the crowd sees it's Joel definitively, and go whack. Only for Ellie to see it's Joel and get a little embarrassed or ashamed and lowers her voice as she finishes the song quietly, as if she's just been walked in on. Joel asks Ellie,
"What are you doing, kiddo? You really gonna go through with this?"
He's talking like Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog, bro. And she replies,
"I'm gonna find, and I'm gonna kill every last one of them."
I fucking told you it was ominous. The Last of Us strings come in, and the title is revealed. And Colin gleefully laughs, which is due to another pre-Part 2 disagreement in the fandom, where people would argue what you could possibly call a Last of Us sequel. You see, you can't have a Last of Us 2, guys. The title doesn't make any sense. It's like a misnomer or something. How can you be 2 of The Last of Us? That don't make no sense. Part 2 gets around that derision cleverly. It sounds cleaner and more unique. Highlights that it's not a new story, but the same story. Colin ends with,
"Fuck yeah. That's big. That's fucking big time."
And ladies and gentlemen, it was. I remember the trailer on my Facebook feed of just people I knew from high school had like 8 shares or something. Doesn't sound like much, but I'd never seen any of them share anything media related before or since. There was like pretty popular girls sharing the trailer. It was crazy. There's this great video of the live crowd reaction inside the convention center that ends with the guy recording, capturing... Hold on, let's watch this part again. And this part. And this part. And this part.
Every last one of them.
Capturing Neil Druckmann, Ashley Johnson, and Troy Baker all hugging after the reveal, riding off the audience's reaction, and it's very cool. Though that wouldn't be the last that we saw of them PSX weekend. During the presentation, Sean Layden mentioned that there were some secret PSX panels that hadn't been announced yet. Don't worry guys, the Kinda Funny panel was announced beforehand, so we were all already very excited for that. Oh my god, look at young David Jaffe. Crazy. They weren't one of the secret panels, but one of them was indeed the Last of Us Part 2 panel, where a bunch of things would be revealed about the game. Like that Ellie was the protagonist, and that the game did indeed take place a few years into the future. It was also this very panel, only hours after the game's initial reveal, that Neil Druckmann would give a rather infamous line, after being asked the very first question of the evening, where he would say,
"Let's see how I do this dance. Yeah, if the first game was really like the core of it, the theme was about the love between these two characters and how we build that through story, music, interaction, gameplay, mechanics. This story is the counter of that. The story is about hate and how we use all those same things to make the player feel that through Ellie this time. First game is like you play as Joel. This game you're playing as Ellie. And that is all I'm going to say about that.
I remember watching this panel at my desk the day of and thinking that that was the coolest thing he could have ever said and that I was absolutely on board 100%. All potential doubts erased. And oh boy, in the end, did our boy Neil deliver. PlayStation's Paris Games Week 2017 was touted as the second half of PlayStation's E3 2017 by those in the know leading into the event. That meaning that all the big announcements and follow-ups that were absent from the E3 2017 press conference were going to be featured here. The Last of Us Part 2 was one of these titles. The conference opened with the debut of Ghost of Tsushima, consequently leading to the end of the what the hell was Sucker Punch working on mystery of the mid-2010s. It was kinda crazy. There was just this trailer for a samurai game and no one knew what was going on, and then the logo flash at the end was the big reaction.
Still looks awesome.
It does. It does.
Oh, shit! What? Holy shit!
Ladies and gentlemen, please
wow.
welcome Jim Ross.
The infamous guys are doing this? That's kinda crazy, dog. Not the dog, we'll get to him in a second. The rest of the conference, however, was rather uneventful. That is, until the finale, which was, of course, The Last of Us Part 2's second trailer. This one was very different, however. There was no Joel, there was no Ellie. Instead, it focused on all new characters, and an all new leading lady. There was no inclusion of crowd reaction at Paris Games Week, so perhaps I'll run through this one a bit quicker. That being said, even if there was a raucous crowd, I don't think the reactions would have been too strong outside of the oohing and ahhing at the violence. Because it only becomes overly obvious towards the end of the trailer that you are even watching a trailer for The Last of Us Part 2. It's not until the clickers run and attack the characters in the final few seconds that you realize. So I guess it's not that big of a deal. The trailer opens on a very jacked young lady being dragged by the arms, tied up through the woods on a stormy night. She is thrown to the ground only to look up and see the hung, disemboweled remains of others dangling in the air. That is, before being hung herself. She is graciously given a bucket to perch on to prevent her from dying too quickly. The presumed leader of this group then approaches her, placing a knife at her stomach and begins to recite a chant.
They are nested with sin.
Seemingly starting some sort of ritualistic sacrifice. They are interrupted by whistling, and then somebody else is brought before the woman. She is called Yara by the woman, and there's some sort of familiarity between the two. She asks,
Where is the other apostate?
Yara spits in her face, and then the Crady lady gives the order.
Clip her wings.
And Yara is held down and her arm is shattered with the most violent damn hammer shots you're ever gonna see or hear.
I don't like this.
Jesus.
Oh, fucking good lord.
Quickly following, arrows rain out of the bushes, saving Yara's life, killing one of the cultists, while Yara takes care of the other one with a hammer. The girl hanging then uses her legs to strangle the main woman, and Yara finishes her off with an impaling, vengeful hammer shot. This action, however, knocked the poor protagonist girl off her bucket, and she's now hanging to death. Greg Miller has a good one at the height of the tension here.
Come on, Ellie. Come and get her. Save her, Ellie.
The bowman from the bushes is revealed to be this little boy who urges that the demons are coming, but Yara tells him to cut the hanging girl down. The boy protests that she's one of them, but Yara reiterates,
She's one of them. Lev.
The hanging girl is then rescued and grabs the hammer to defend herself, and they all ready for the infected to attack as the Jack girl says her only line in the trailer in the trusty voice of Laura Bailey.
Watch your backs.
She is ripped.
Yeah, she's yak, as Nick would say.
And we cut to a title flash. It's more of an introductory trailer than a concept trailer like the first one. It's thematically appropriate too, I guess, that the first trailer focuses on Ellie's half of the adventure, and for the second trailer to abruptly showcase who we will come to know as Abby's half of the adventure. It is also very appropriate how outlandishly violent the trailer is, with the moment with Yara. It was shocking to say the least. There was a lot of discourse already about the game being too violent after just this trailer. The Last of Us was a violent game, but it had never been this blunt or this visceral. It was certainly a sign of things to come. Besides just who these people were, that was the main talking point coming out of this second outing from The Last of Us Part 2. The speculation about these named characters, Yara and Lev, and especially this mysterious unnamed woman who seemed to be the protagonist of the trailer, was intense. The main theory that came out of this trailer was that this was some sort of a flashback, and that this was Ellie's mother. This was connected to the cult being seen as something that would make more sense if the outbreak was newer, since there wouldn't be too much information on the infected at the beginning. It would make sense then if people thought that maybe they were demons. Also, the motioning the crazy cult lady does to the girl's stomach, saying she is nested with sin, was taken to mean that she was pregnant with Ellie at the time the trailer takes place in. I remember people saying that the structure of the game would likely be a lot like the second Godfather movie, with the game being split into Ellie's story and her mother's, much like Michael and his father Vito. The trailer was more of a tone setter and a reveal that Ellie is probably not going to be the only character we play as in the game, and that this new girl, likely Ellie's mother, would be getting a share of the spotlight. The character being voiced by Laura Bailey also indicated that this may be a larger role. A year after the initial announcement, and we're back at PSX. It's also kind of the final PSX, but that's another story. This year, PlayStation really doesn't have a press conference. It was like this thing with a couch and interviews with creators, and some demos, and it was 3 hours long. Greg hosted a part of it, so there's that, and he did ask Shuhei if he had played Part 2 yet. He said no.
How much Last of Us Part 2 have you played?
Last of Us, no, I haven't played any.
Don't lie to me.
No, I have not.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then Greg jokingly asked this.
Okay. Yeah. Just tell me, what is it her mom? Has that been confirmed? Because that's what it seems like. And then she's pregnant? Is that what the knife's about?
Yeah, that's my question.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah, so I was watching news video like
Yeah.
talking about trying to figure it out.
Do you think Joel is alive, or do you think he's a ghost?
Ghost of Tsushima?
No, we're not. You don't have to plug the game we just talked about.
Oh, another great game. I played through the Shadow of the Colossus remake.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Well done on changing the subject, Shuhei. Greg also hosted the Uncharted 10-year anniversary panel. Uncharted's pretty cool, bro. The Last of Us Part 2 as a game didn't feature on the show. There was no trailer or demo, but just like the year before, they had a panel at PSX. The panel starts with Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker singing Wayfaring Stranger live on stage, which will end up being the end credits song for the game, or at least one of them. Now, obviously, Wayfaring Stranger is like a sad, ominous song, probably about dying and going to meet your dead parents, and about a long journey, which would seem to fit The Last of Us tonally and even plot-wise. But this is a clever little move on Naughty Dog's part, because Ashley Johnson, or Ellie, sings the opening verses, which have the lines,
I'm going there to see my mother. She said she'd meet me when I come.
and
I'm going there to see my father.
which connects to both the big speculative talking points about the game at the time. Joel, Ellie's surrogate father, is going to die, and this new character we met at Paris Games Week is Ellie's mother. It fits. It's vague enough that you can convince yourself it's hinting at Joel dying, or Ellie yearning to have a relationship with her dead mother, who we are going to learn more about in the second game, so much so that she seems to be a protagonist. Nothing is outrightly confirmed, even if both were assumed certainties at the time. And evidently it didn't give away too much because one of those things were very much not true, even if one was. It's clever. They know what they're doing. It took me researching this video for me to realize that the second line is not traveling through this world of wolves, which of course would fit the game even more so than the actual traveling through this world of woes. Lame. Also, every line is just cool when you pair it with speculation like with Through the Valley. I know dark clouds will gather round me. Sounds like poor Ellie's journey and life experience to me. And what does that mean for this second game? What's it going to look like in the fleshed out speculative world I've imagined in my head? It's a lot of fun. Troy Baker's verses on the song are even more about dying, and coming out you definitely think this Joel fella is kicking the goddamn bucket. I'm going there to see my savior? Like Jesus? It must be hard to sing in Joel's voice. Ashley Johnson's Ellie performance voice is just her voice basically. Troy Baker sounds nothing like Joel, and to sing in a put-on voice must be very hard. There's a cute moment where the crowd realizes he's going to be singing in Joel's voice, and they freak out a little.
I'll soon be free from earthly trials.
Adorable. The panel itself starts with a new face. Neil Druckmann comes out and Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker are there, but with them is the new co-writer of the game, Hallie Gross. She was announced to be co-writing the game with Neil back when the game was first revealed, but this is the first time she's really spoken, especially on a stage like this. The first question the host asks is this.
So, I'm actually going to open it up by talking with you, Neil. You're the writer and director of The Last of Us.
Co-writer with Hallie.
Co-writer. Yeah, I got to give Hallie her credit, too. So I have just some casual, light questions right off the bat. One, will Ellie meet her mother?
That would be tricky. Yeah, the thing with songs is you could take them literally or they're a metaphor for something else. And just like everything else we're putting out there, we're not going to say a whole lot about that song.
See, some of you don't believe me that this was all the speculation was about at the time. But look at this clip and that Greg one earlier. I'm telling the fucking truth here. She followed it up with this one.
Two real quick questions. Is Joel dead? And when is the game coming out? So.
What was the first question?
Joel, alive or dead?
It depends at which point. Everybody dies at some point.
Wow. Hey, guys.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. There's a very interesting conversation that's had here where Neil Druckmann talks about the marketing for Uncharted 4 and how he tried to do everything to convince the audience that Nathan Drake might die in that game, titling it A Thief's End, announcing that it would be the final entry in the Nathan Drake story beforehand, etc., etc. Neil explained all this in response to the Joel being dead question, with him passing off that it seemed like Nate was going to die in Uncharted 4, but he didn't. So maybe Joel won't either. This highlights a larger meta subtext about Naughty Dog and its attitude towards killing its characters at the time that seems to have been lost to time. That was very much a part of the build-up to The Last of Us Part 2. Once upon a time, Naughty Dog had a reputation that it was scared to kill off its characters. Uncharted 1 damn near opens on a Sully death fake-out, only to reveal he's alive towards the latter part of the game, and completely fine. Uncharted 3 teased the whole game that Sully was going to die, with Sully constantly commenting that he couldn't do this for much longer, and that he was getting too old for this. And Elena, I'm pretty sure, outrightly stated at one point that Sully would follow Nate anywhere and that Nate's obsession was going to get Sully killed. There were even flashbacks to the meeting in the first game when Nate was a little kid. The death flags were going off everywhere. This eventuates into Sully getting shot at the climax of the game. But just kidding, it was a drug trip and everybody survives. This is not criticism of Uncharted 3. Obviously you can't just kill the great Victor Sullivan, but it was definitely the start of a trend. Does Naughty Dog have the guts to kill one of their characters? Next we had The Last of Us, and 2/3 of the way through that game there's a massive Joel death fake-out, where he literally fools a story and gets entirely impaled, and we dramatically fade to black, only to cut to the next season with Ellie on her own. He's gotta be dead. But then it's revealed he's fine, don't worry, Ellie patched him up, and he survived. And shortly thereafter he's back to normal. Talk about realism. Then Ellie also doesn't die at the end of the game in her drowning fake-out or regarding that whole cure business. We saved her and all that. Again, not real criticism from me, but the meme is growing. This dog's got no bite. Then Uncharted 4 rolls around, the type of marketing Neil Druckmann just went over in tow, and again, nobody dies. Not Sully, not Nate, not Elena, not even Slimy Sam, who has the biggest death fake out of them all, at the end of that game when he's trapped under falling debris as Avery's ship burns down. Everyone thought somebody was going to die in that game, but it didn't happen. Again, don't worry about biting, this dog ain't even got no goddamn teeth. So would The Last of Us Part 2 finally be the game where the dog proves us wrong and shows its fangs? Only time will tell. But until then, the speculation would ensue. At the end of Neil's attempted Uncharted 4 parallel misdirect, something weird happens. You see, on the PlayStation YouTube channel's official upload of this panel, there's a very noticeable weird cut, where Neil goes from talking, cut, to the host saying, "That's enough out of you, Neil, over to these guys."
With this, we released one trailer. Joel walks through a door and is like, "Oh my God, is Joel a ghost? Is he dead?"
Well, that's enough out of Neil. Let's turn to you two.
Hi.
Thank you, Neil. That was great.
Weird. I wonder what he said that necessitated a cut. They tried to cover for it a bit, but there's a clear fucking cut. Was it a glitch? Or was the live stream lagging or something? Well, if you head over to the massive whole day live stream VOD that's still up as a holdover of the day on the official PlayStation YouTube channel, what's cut is the host really just repeating the question, Neil getting a little chirpy, and then him literally saying yes, but no one registers it or really acknowledges it, and it goes completely under the radar.
We released one trailer. Joel walks through a door and is like, "Oh my God, is Joel a ghost? Is he dead?"
Right? That's what I would like to know.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. No, it's good. So you guys are trying to be like the Game of Thrones of video games. That'll be great. Rip my beating heart from my chest. Well, that's enough out of Neil. Let's turn to you two.
Hi.
Thank you, Neil. That was great.
It's odd. Without the benefit of hindsight, it's hard to take as a definitive answer, and not a joke. But it's funny that somebody at PlayStation, or maybe even Neil himself, recognized it and wanted it cut from the published version. Just a little something I noticed. Besides that bombshell about Joel's apparent death, there's some other things revealed at this panel. Yara and Lev's actors are interviewed for a bit, and it's confirmed that they are indeed siblings, which had been assumed from the Paris Games Week trailer. Yara is 16 and Lev is 13, Druckmann confirms, which is younger than I thought for Yara. Also, I think Google must be wrong, but it's telling me that Yara's actress was born in 2004, which seems insane compared to Lev's actor being born in the great 2001. That's when I was born, brother. Yara's actress Victoria Grace would be like 13 at this panel then, when I thought she was like 20 or something. I'm confused. Maybe somebody out there can confirm or deny. That would make her 16 when the game came out, and 13 while acting in it? Doesn't seem right to me, but hey, maybe. Seattle as a location for the game is also confirmed. Seattle signage was identified by fans after the Paris Games Week trailer had come out, so these were both rather small reveals. Laura Bailey is also on the panel, but her character is still not named, keeping the speculation about her relationship to Ellie's character and the game in general alight. A more interesting moment is when Neil Druckmann fakes that he can't say anything specific about one of the mysterious ideas Hallie Gross pitched on her first day working on the script that ended up making it into the game, only then to reveal that she got somebody pregnant. The crowd goes a little crazy for that one.
Awesome with Hallie is like, I remember the first day we're going over the story and like, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty confident about the opening, pretty confident about the ending. This big, giant middle part, not so sure. And already the first day we started wrestling with these ideas, and she already had like awesome ideas. I want to say one of them, but I'm not.
I know
going
you can't.
to.
I know exactly. Yeah, you can't.
Get used to it.
We got 38 minutes to try and hope somebody slips up, guys.
Whatever. I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it. I'm doing
No.
it. I'm doing it.
No.
You're gonna
I'm doing
slip
it.
up?
No.
What are you doing? What's he gonna do?
After the first day, Hallie goes home and talks to her husband, and she's like, I think I got someone pregnant.
Interesting. I wonder what that means. Is Ellie pregnant? WTF? The last thing said by Neil of consequence here is that he promises there will be more to share at E3 2018. Too bad we gotta wait for that. Oh wait. And here we are at PlayStation's 2018 E3 press conference. Little did we know at the time it would be PlayStation's last E3 press conference. E3's fucking dead, bro. Is life even worth living anymore? We don't need to dwell on that, because we're back with all the kind of funny best friends. Who's this Hispanic heartthrob sitting on the end, you're asking? That's Andy Cortez, of course, and he's here now. Where's Colin? You're a few years late on that question, young man. Now this press conference slowly fades from black, and our friend Sean Layden is welcomed. But an eagle-eyed viewer might notice that there's something a little weird about the venue. For the preceding 2 years of E3, PlayStation held their press conferences in that sexy theater with an orchestra. But this time, we're in a tent or something, with a very stylized constellation of lights and a rustic color palette. Weird. Look at the stage. We're all a little confused. The Kinda Funny guys think it's Harry Potter related, and Sean Layden jokes that it's the Church of PlayStation. Tim has a good one.
The chat's ideas around what we can do for this show. So tonight, we're going to have, rather than a bombardment of new creative, we're going to take all of you.
Actually, I think he just stole that from chat. Guilty. Sean does his opening address and then introduces
Gustavo Santaolalla,
the composer of the Last of Us soundtrack. We ain't fucking around today, boys. We're starting with The Last of Us Part 2. Gustavo then starts performing. I will say, kinda bold to start a press conference with a musical performance, and it does go on for a little bit too long, but eventually we get to the old trailer. Yippee! The trailer opens with a logo and the song Little Sadie by Crooked Still. It's like most of the other songs we've featured in these trailers, it has a rather dark undertone. I hope that doesn't mean something in musical theory. That's not what I meant. It's about killing somebody and regretting it later, but it sounds rather jovial. It's fun. Greg's clapping. As the first verse comes to a close, we get the first shot of the trailer. And, aha! The mysterious veil is lifted. And the reason for the odd venue is understood. It was to mimic this location featured in the Last of Us trailer. That, ladies and gentlemen, is fucking baller. Sonny knows who the fuck runs shit around here. There ain't no Ghost of Tsushima specific E3 venue. What the fuck even is a God of War? This is the power of the dog, baby. After this trailer, they literally moved everyone into a normal E3 venue and went on intermission for like 20 minutes. It was horrific. They ain't doing that for anybody else. Ellie is standing to the side as the party rages around her, little Sadie playing diegetically. She is then approached by Jesse in his first ever appearance. Yes, Jesse and Dina, who we now see dancing around in the barn, were introduced after Yara and Lev. Crazy. Jesse and Ellie agree about both hating parties like this, and then Jesse complains about how Ellie's old man has been laying into him recently about his patrols, and about how protective he gets whenever Ellie's scheduled to
It's
go
not
out.
us, that's them.
No, I
Your
know.
old man really laid into me.
I'm telling the kids though.
What happened?
Another big lecture about my patrols. Don't go here, don't go there. It's funny how involved he gets whenever you're scheduled to go out.
Yeah.
Joel is alive? The conversation then turns to Dina. The idea of Jesse and Dina's recent breakup is introduced, but Ellie seems to think they'll be back together in about 2 weeks. Jesse cutely feigns that he doesn't really care, but when Ellie hints that Dina may have said something to her to that effect, he melts and is outwardly interested. Ellie corrects herself and says, I give it 1 week. Dina then approaches the two of them, basically flips Jesse off, and takes Ellie onto the dance floor and puts Ellie's arms around her rather romantically. They do a bit of sweaty flirting, and Ellie is clearly hesitant but interested in Dina, who is very much in control here and pushing things forward. Ellie needs to be led because she's a master in self-cuckery, just like us small folk. They get really close and everything is going well, and then Ellie hits Dina and us with the "every guy in this room is staring at you right now" line.
You love it. Every guy in this room is staring at you right now.
It's a very direct statement from Ellie that cuts through the more superficial and subtextual nature of the quippy flirting they've been doing up until this point, and grounds the conversation, making it more serious. This line, and the delivery from Ashley Johnson here, might make this trailer my favourite of the bunch. The first one was the perfect reveal, and what a song and a strong concept statement. The second one was in the moment mysterious, and is in retrospect interesting and fitting. But this one, with this line, is legitimately great, I think. It's some of that Neil Druckmann magic. In before I get slaughtered because this line was written by Hallie Gross. It's certainly the best piece of acting in any of these trailers. I will get more into this in other videos where we actually talk about the game, but Neil Druckmann might be my favourite writer ever, because when I experience his stuff, I feel like he's writing specifically for me and my sensibilities. I feel almost like a kindred spirit. When I first heard Ellie say that line, I was halfway through my last year in high school, and it, as the girls would say, made me feel seen. Ellie, I think, is written in a very relatable way to teenage boys, actually, despite being a yucky teenage girl. The appeal of the first game to me, and what made it my favourite game immediately when I first finished it in 2016, at the age of 14, funnily enough, I was about to turn 15. Calm down before you call me out, about the years not lining up. 2001 babies rise up. Was just how great and real Ellie was written as a teenager. It was the first time I saw a character and literally thought it was me, or at least a good representation of us on screen. The way she acted, the way she swore, the way she was smart and knew what was going on around her, even when she was underestimated, felt like my own experience. I remember Spider-Man Homecoming, which would come out around that time, the following year of me finishing Part 1 for the first time, and I remember absolutely hating Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because it felt like a caricature of what old people thought we were. Obsessed with selfies and taking videos of himself, always over the top, and just secretly being so nice and patient. It was like repulsive. This is not us. It's what executives think we are, I thought. The authenticity, the descriptive realism, if I can steal my own made-up terms, with Ellie was astronomical. It was the selling point. And now, fast forward to 2018, Ellie, like me, was flirting, and she liked it, but she didn't know how to operate around it. She was not going to dance, but she still wants to impress. So she's going to try and say something cutting to display that she's observant, and spends more time watching than doing. OMG, that's so me. That is this line to me. It is absolutely a literal line I have nearly by word said to a crush of mine before. Or at least it's so close that I identified with it immediately. It's meant in like a fearful, eager way, you know? Everything about this moment, the quietness of it, speaks to me. It felt so right that grown-up Ellie was like this, that she would say something like this. It was almost an acknowledgement of the tried and tested, overplayed, terrible YouTube analysis line of, oh my god, she's grown up with me. I don't know how else to explain why this line is so strong to me. I don't know if it makes sense or if it's relatable to anybody else, but I think Neil understands, and charged this scene with it, so I assume there must be others. Kindred spirits. Neil Druckmann writes how I talk and think. Ellie speaks how I speak. Not just with this line, but with countless other small examples. And that's something profound, even if only to me. It's not that everything Ellie says is the way I say them, or something like that. But when she says something introspective or observant, it's exactly relatable to me. Dina, after the line, comes back with a cute...
Maybe they're staring at you.
And Ellie responds...
Or not.
That's what I would say. It's crazy. And that's what she would say, because she doesn't get it and deflects the compliment/question in the moment because she also wants to say something clever. This is an exact interaction I've had, I'm telling you.
I'm just a girl, not a threat.
I'm just a girl, not a threat. Obviously is not something I could say exactly, but it's just like something I would say. Part of Ellie, part of us, is this crippling need to downplay ourselves, to not seem arrogant without sarcasm, or not to overextend an interest for fear of being exposed.
Oh, Ellie. I think they should be terrified of me.
Is exactly what I would imagine and hope the person I was talking to would say. It's like wish fulfillment. You're actually as cool as you want to be, though that response is only reserved for the world of video games. This leads to the similarly fantastical wish fulfillment kiss that transitions into Ellie cutting the throat of an enemy and our transition into the gameplay demo part of the trailer. It's pretty cool. We won't touch on the gameplay demo part of this trailer too much here. The pop from the crowd in the building when they realize they are about to see the first ever gameplay demo of The Last of Us Part 2 is great, however.
Gameplay.
It is notable that Ellie is fighting the cult group from the second trailer in what we know to be present day, throwing a wrench slightly into theories that the second trailer was depicting Ellie's mother right after the outbreak began. You can still rationalize that this is still true, and that this group still exists, and that Ellie is just fighting the current day incarnation of them to avenge her mother, which is what a lot of people did. The Jesse lines at the beginning also indicates that Joel is very much still alive, at least at this point in the game, which is almost surely intentional to counter the Joel is definitely dying narrative. He's at least alive when this scene takes place. Also, Dina being introduced as a love interest for Ellie, and somebody she cares about, does sprinkle in the first inkling of the maybe Dina is the one that dies and Ellie seeks revenge for narrative that will be the direction a lot of the future and final trailers of the game will try and sell. The trailer ends by transitioning back to the scene before the gameplay segment, and Dina saying,
See, I told you. They should be terrified.
With Ellie giving a great big wholesome smile in response, juxtaposing the visceral violence we've just seen her inflict.
Just end the show, guys.
I'm here for it. Yeah, just thank you, guys.
I'm telling you, man, time jumps. Also, yeah, time jumps.
State of Play is lame. Nintendo Directs are lame. I want press conferences with crowds, goddammit. Alas, by the end of The Last of Us Part 2's development cycle, State of Play was a thing, and it would be where 2 of the last showcases of the game would be shown before the game's eventual release in June of 2020. A measly 4 years after the original announcement. The first time the game was featured on a State of Play was in the September 2019 edition. It was announced to be featuring beforehand, so there were no surprise reactions here. The trailer opens on Dina asking Ellie the question,
How would you rate our kiss from last night?
Directly continuing on from the events of the 2018 E3 trailer. Oh my god, we just talked about that. We then tour around Jackson and see Jesse again, and then see what seems to be Ellie and Dina's early game snowy adventures where something goes horribly wrong. We see Ellie pinned down saying the now infamous "please stop" line, and hear a gunshot ring out as Ellie cries no. We then see a lot of shots of Ellie alone in Seattle, and the shaky hand motif again from the reveal trailer. The trailer then concludes with the reveal that Joel is helping on this mission. We also get a release date. It certainly was a release date, but not exactly the release date I spoiled earlier. It's much more of a traditional trailer than anything we've seen up until this point, and thus it's not overly exciting or memorable. In fact, I barely remembered this or the next trailer at all before going back for this project, though I'm sure I would have watched both of them at least once when they came out. The trailer's main goal is to try and get you off the Joel is certainly dying trail, especially with the fake out at the end. Though it is pretty clear if you look closely that Ellie is grabbed from behind outside in a green environment, and then the shot of Joel is indoors, meaning they don't really line up. This is pretty clearly, though, an attempt by the trailer to be misleading, altruistically, as not to ruin the experience for the player base with spoilers. Still, this is something a lot of people would at least pretend to have a problem with in retrospect once the game came out. I don't really care about it at all, and would almost certainly agree that the trade-off is worth it, and has the player's best interests at heart. The trailer, in order to get you off the Joel is dying trail, slightly further leans into the Dina is the one that'll die narrative. There's a shot of Ellie calling out to Dina in the snowstorm, right before we see someone get killed, and then we don't see Dina for the rest of the trailer. To these ends, the trailer anecdotally seems to have been somewhat successful. Say hello to our young Blessing. My god, does he look young here. He was the latest kind of funny hiring at the time. Tim even fucked up his name in the intro to this very video. Look at how far we've come. But at least he was convinced that Joel wasn't dying from this trailer.
Now that we know that, at least from what it seems like, from what we see, it seems that Joel is going to be the companion here. And it seems like it very well could be an adventure with Ellie and Joel again, seemingly traveling through, chasing these people, or doing whatever they're doing.
But that's all that really comes out of The Last of Us Part 2's first appearance on State of Play. We'll be back shortly. 7 months following the State of Play presentation, and if you can do math, a few delays, in early May, Naughty Dog put out what they called the final trailer, which I guess is kind of true if you count the final State of Play we've still got to go over that comes out in late May, a gameplay demo rather than a trailer. The game got delayed from its February release date, and then again got delayed indefinitely because of COVID. Then a bunch of scenes got leaked. There was some hullabaloo about that, I'll tell ya. It is safe to say a lot has happened in these 7 months. But this trailer largely stays the course, really trying to sell, for those who remain unspoiled, that Dina is the one who gets killed. So much so that they go to greater lengths trying to mislead. Like removing Dina from shots where Ellie and Dina would be riding Shimmer through Seattle later in the game, so it's just Ellie. In these shots, you can kind of tell something is off from the pose Ellie is in on the back of that horse. Clearly, Dina's supposed to be holding on there. But again, at a cursory look, which is all most viewers are going to get from brief shots in a trailer, like that Joel ending shot in the previous trailer, this still works to these Dina dying ends. They do other misleading things too, like showing what seems to be an older Ellie in scenes with Joel. Some which do feature in the game, like this one, but then some are also fabricated entirely for the trailer, like this Joel walking back and forth in Ellie's room shot. This comes from an early scene in the game that takes place 4 years prior to this Joel character design. So I guess they really haven't changed the shot, but more the outfit, but it's all to imply that it's happening later. Another thing done in the trailer to keep things under wraps is there being absolutely none of Laura Bailey's mysterious character. Other than that, the trailer is rather straightforward and vague. There's violence, there's vengeance, there's a journey. It's much like everything that has come before, just with more of the actual game on display and recognizable moments from the eventual game, rather than trailer-specific concepts. Because guess what? The game actually exists in a more concrete state at this point, and you can afford to do things like this. Speaking of states, for our final outing here in late May, about a month before the game comes out, The Last of Us Part 2 gets its very own State of Play. Greg's not here because that bastard already has the game at this point, because he got a very early review code. So the game is at least like 99% complete at this point, if not 100. Chat, this is our play. I've got to become the most popular Last of Us Part 2 video guy by the time Part 3 comes out in 4 years or so I can get Greg Miller's review code instead. Please, let's make it happen. The presentation shows us the final trailer again before Neil's silky voice comes in and he voices over some shots of the game, including some ominous Dina and Ellie shots, more Ellie handshakage, callbacks to old trailers, and then eventually the introduction of a bunch of environmental and gameplay elements, before ending with a story outline and talking through some of the different factions you'll encounter in the game. Then we get a full gameplay demo. It's a lot, honestly, and it's all pretty cool. There's no concept to go over here because it's just him talking through things, but it's hype, bro. Maybe want to play the game again, just watching it. But there's not much to go over here. In some of the shots Neil talks through before we see the gameplay demo, we get a lot of shots of Ellie fighting with members of the WLF. Neil spoiled it, not me. But it's all segments where she's on her own or with Jesse, keeping the possibility of Dina being dead alive. Ha! And we again only see reused shots from the Paris Games Week trailer with Laura Bailey's character, and she's not mentioned at all in any of Neil's explanations, keeping her mysteries alive. The actual gameplay demo is a segment where Ellie is alone infiltrating a wolf stronghold, looking for somebody called Nora. It opens on the reveal that Ellie can swim, which is kind of a big deal and nicely understated here. Because, you know, we're cool and subtle and stuff. The Hotline Miami Vita Girl moment is also in the demo. Fan service that fits the state of play stage well. The kind of funny guys have some fun with that one.
Oh my god!
Hey!
It survived!
Where is she?
She was listening to PS I Love You.
We're in the hospital.
Yeah, they're clearing out the upper floors. She's somewhere in there.
She's playing Hotline Miami.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Ellie really wanted that Vita.
The name Abby is mentioned for the first time, though without context, when Ellie overhears somebody asking Nora where Abby went, and Ellie saying to herself,
Why the fuck was Abby here?
I'm not stupid.
The demo ends with Ellie finding and cornering Nora, and cuts before the conversation delves into Big Joel spoilers. And that, in a phrase, was how The Last of Us Part 2 introduced itself. At least with its marketing. The game would launch on June the 19th, 2020. After 4 years of speculation, tons of trailers and demos, and a leaking disaster to a rather mixed reception to say the least. The critics showered it with tens, some fans cried out in outrage, like the little rat crybabies they are, and by year's end it would swallow up all the awards. I think with time the reception has dissipated into a much more positive reception overall. There were a lot of very negative commentary type YouTube videos before and right on release that were eventually probably drowned out by the cavalcade of positive redemptive video essays that came out subsequently. And now it exists in this weird little interesting fragment of the zeitgeist. Even little old I weighed in at the time, in a discussion video that I somehow haven't privated on this channel yet. That might be funny to go back and watch in retrospect. But what are my updated, contemporary, well scripted out and well laid out thoughts of the game now? Well, maybe you'll just have to stick around for part 2 to find out.
Greg Miller, I want you to kick us off here. Last of Us 2 review. You being one of the biggest Sony affiliated people in the entire world when it comes to PlayStation. You've been covering this forever.
Yep.
Naughty Dog, kind of your specialty.
Sure.
Last of Us Part 2. Go.
Last of Us Part 2 is a masterpiece, and I don't use the term lightly, and I think it's Naughty Dog's best video game by a country mile. I think it does things no video game has ever done before. You know, I've talked to all of you privately about it, and the thing I keep coming back when I talk about this is that it's more than a video game, and I feel it's this perfect spot between being a video game, a movie, and a really great book. Like, it's this sweeping story. It goes on these great tangents. You don't know what's around the next corner. And that's the other thing too. You know, obviously there's so many spoilers out there beforehand. Like, I had the game quote unquote spoiled for me, and I did not at all. I think it's a technical marvel in terms of graphic fidelity, in terms of audio. I think it's the best gameplay Naughty Dog's ever done. I think the gameplay is on another level. I think the story is incredible. I think the characters are incredible. I can't say enough nice things about it.
Blessing.
The game's really, really good. It's like it's to what Greg just said, right? I think it's the best Naughty Dog game that I've played. It being the sequel to The Last of Us, like Last of Us is one of those games where if you would ask me before they announced this game, I would have said the game doesn't need a sequel. Like Last of Us, I think stands so well on its own, and it's one of those things where I look at The Last of Us as one of my iconic video game stories. When I look back at video game stories that I've loved and I've enjoyed and I've looked back on as like tentpole stories for video games, like Last of Us is that. And so I think the biggest compliment I can pay to Last of Us Part 2 is that I think it is probably the best sequel to a video game I've ever played.
To me, this is undeniably one of my favorite pieces of media, period. Like, it's not just, you said it's more than a video game, Greg. I totally agree. And I feel I just played through Last of Us Part 1 and the DLC right before this. And like, I stand by that. I think those games hold up entirely and are fantastic still. Playing this, it's just so far ahead of that, but it just refines it all so much. And it is difficult, Steimer, to your point, to kind of talk about this game and why it's so special without getting into the spoilers, because everything is so perfectly connected to each other, from story to gameplay to dialogue to characters, to the way to when you interact, when you don't interact. It's playing with you constantly. And anything that made the first game special, they just doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on. This game is just, it's more, but not to the point of excess. It's to the point of every single element of this game has a reason and a purpose for why it's happening, where it happens. And that to me is what is so special about this. Is I guarantee that a decade from now, we're going to still be talking about this game as being extremely special and important for video games. And I honestly even think like it will transcend the conversation of video games.
It's interesting. I love this game. I think it's one of the great games of all time, The Last of Us Part 2. You know that this is what we're going to talk about if you already clicked on the podcast and hit play. But I guess I'm not a woke person by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't stem your discussion and criticism of something so marvelous like this through such a reductive and stupid lens. Listen, if you want to have that Tucker Carlson style lens, I think that's appropriate and fine in certain areas, but this game is deeper and better than that. The second someone hears that someone is trans, the second someone hears someone is a lesbian, they're like, oh, it's woke. Ah. Why? Lesbians exist. Trans people exist. They're obviously going to exist in this space. I don't really, but I should remark, not only in gaming in this space, but in this space, what I mean is in the fictional space of The Last of Us. If gay people exist now and people that are trans exist now, then they're going to exist in the apocalypse. So, I know your dad loves ice fishing. It's like you walk on an ill-formed sheet of ice, and the first thing that happens is there's the first major fault that appears right across the ice. And that was Left Behind. When they introduced that Ellie was a lesbian, that was like the right across the ice as it cracks. And then fell through with Last of Us Part 2. Lesbianism, love triangle, trans, religious people, like, it's the scars and all the rest. I just feel like it's really reductive, and The Last of Us is owed more than both games are owed more than this notion that it can be reduced to a gender, it can be reduced to a sexuality. It's not about that. That's the texture of humanity. It's not about that, though. And I think people are getting, and I just feel like Left Behind almost seems in hindsight like a signal of things to come. Like, just so you know, she's a lesbian. Oh no. We don't want anyone to get upset, and we're going to bring this a little further. And I feel like there's part of it, and I just think that that's lame and reductive and stupid. With that said, it's interesting because I don't know that a game, and this is, I think, this is why I think I respect it so much, is because I don't think a game has ever been this sophisticated before. There are some pretty sophisticated games out there with like stories. I always think of, and I bring it up a lot, Spec Ops: The Line, which is 10 years old now. I mean, one of the most sophisticated game narratives ever. No doubt about it. And makes you question everything about video games and shooters and war and the nature of conflict, government and everything else. And I think that this game is powerful in a sense because, and this game in particular, because no matter how much more they try to strive towards normalcy, we're now 25 years after the end of the world at this point. The same human instincts, the same human alliance, the love and the connections and the tethers everyone shares, the memories you have and share and hold. I think that's what the game's about. It's about the human condition in some way. I think revenge in some way is just the patina, and it's obvious and it's there, but the thematic resonance of the game, I think, just goes far deeper. And I think that's why there are scenes in this game I remember, and I went and watched it. You were out in the grocery store. The scene where she flashes back to the porch for the first time. I remember I cried the first time I played that. I was like, I'm actually tearing up just thinking about it. I'm like, I can't believe how sad this is. You know, like, how can people play something like this and be like, this sucks? What are you, fucking crazy? What are you, nuts? Like, what? Go play a fucking Call of Duty then. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. But that's what gets me so mad. And I think where some of the angst about the game comes from is that it's fed by no one, or by, I don't say no one else, but by very few studios even being able to reach anywhere close to this. This game is a mountain in a fucking mountain range that barely anyone has climbed. Ken Levine climbed it. Neil Druckmann climbed it. Miyamoto climbed it. You know, a few others. But that's how much better I think this game is than everything else. That's why I say, like, this might arguably be the best game since The Last of Us Part 1, in my opinion, which I think was the best game since BioShock, which I think was the best game since, I don't know, Resident Evil 4 or something like that. It's a game that comes around once in a generation. And I want to wring people's necks, honestly, sometimes. But I agree in the sense that it requires, this game, from my perspective, requires a much more eloquent defense. And I know for a fact in my heart of hearts that there is going to be crazy revision about this game. I am watching you motherfuckers. I remember the games when they come out and people don't like them or don't like them, and the trash that this game got. And I don't think it's going to be like that in 5 or 10 years. I think people are going to look back and be like, we had a really good thing here. We might have potentially ruined our ability to get any more of it. I think there are a lot of things, and perhaps it's the chemistry of all of those things together that makes this one of the greats, or the great, you know, I think you can argue that The Last of Us 2 is maybe the greatest game ever. But I turn on a game like this and I look at it from the very beginning and I'm like, well, what don't you understand about how this is insane? What don't you get about how expensive this was to make, and how the money was used in such an amazing way to give us this beautiful rendered story? And this, I don't know, it's, I guess what I'm saying is it's fucking evident. It's a matter of taste, whether you're going to be into it or not. Because you can give me the finest CRPG, you can give me the finest point and click adventure game, and I am not going to want to play it. Oh, point and click adventure, the best click of, like Tales of Monkey Island or whatever the hell that. No, I'm good. Thanks. I don't care. I don't care. So I totally get that there are some people that are like that, just like I am with other genres. But for those that are into third-person action, for those that are into third-person shooting, for those that are into story-driven games, PlayStation exclusives, console games, action-adventure, story-driven games, cinematics, modeling, all those things, this is a fucking masterpiece. It's just objectively look at it. And that's where I think the passion comes from. It's not an evangelical thing for me, because again, it is a matter of taste. It is subjective. But there are objective things you can say about video games, every game. And I think you could say this game is objectively one of the tightest, most amazingly designed pieces of digital real estate ever. And whether or not you like what happens within its confines, whether you're not like the execution, I think that that's just like looking at, you know, a Van Gogh and being like, well, this is objectively great art. And then we can get into whether we really like the piece or not. Does that resonate with you at all, or am I over my skis on this?